This pink hair has all been box dyed, and we turned it into this in one day. So if you want to see how I did that, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell and watch this video because I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. If this is your first time here, welcome to Bobby's Crew. My name is Katie and I am the head stylist at Bobby Hair Studio. I'm also the owner and I'm the stylist who does the YouTube videos. So this is something that I've done quite a bit of on my channel, and if you want to see more of this, make sure to follow and subscribe and watch some more of my videos because I'm sure you'll like them. But for anybody who's returning, you guys know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off by telling you what's in this girl's hair. So she's been doing years and years and years of Sally's Ion box dye in her hair, and she's been doing like red and magenta, all these crazy pink tones, and then she wanted to go blonde. So basically I told her, you need to let that grow as long as you can, and you're going to stop using color safe shampoo while you take care of your hair, and the color will start to fade a little bit naturally, and then we can lighten it. So what I'm holding up right here is the test strand that we did, and because she's had no previous blonding in most of her hair except for the last like couple of inches at the very bottom there, that orange bit, her hair has lifted safely, so we know that we can do something to this today. And as for a time frame, her hair is actually extremely slow growing, so this has been months and months and months of growth and letting her hair fade as much as possible. I want to preface that any time that I do a box dye color correction, I do make my client wait as long as they possibly can before we do the correction to let the natural color grow in a little bit so we can have a little bit more of that, and so that the box dye can fade as much as possible, because it will never fully go away. But 4 weeks is not a long time ago, as many of my Instagram DMs are saying when girls are messaging me. They're like, hey, I box dyed my hair a long time ago and I want to go white blonde. So I ask them, when was a long time ago for you? And they say 4 weeks. That's not a long time ago. So let the hair go as long as possible without coloring it. Give it treatments, let the color fade, and then it's a lot easier to lighten it to the shade that you want. So what you're seeing here is her hair has been dampened down by water and a K18 mist. That's going to protect and repair her hair as we bleach it. And the test strand has been done without any protection because I wanted to see how bad the results could possibly get, and she had no breakage. So this is just going to make sure that her hair stays really beautiful and really healthy while we lighten it. What I'm using for my lightener formula today is Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, as always. It is my favorite. And I am doing a 20 volume and 7 volume mix to start with my first bowl. I'm also adding in my favorite secret weapon, Cool Additive by Blonde Me. It is a super blue pigment that you can add into your lightener, and what it does is it fights really warm tones. And because we literally have red in the hair currently, it's going to still lift really warm. So we need that blue to help fight that extra warm red orange tone while it lifts. So after I've mixed that in, I am applying a Fremar back bib to her back, and that's going to be utilized to actually keep her hair insulated and warm later. But it's also important just to keep my area clean and to make sure that no bleach goes down her back if she sits forward, because this is going to be a long process and she's going to be shifting around a lot, and I'm going to be putting in a lot of lightener, so it can get really messy. That's why I love these back bibs, is because they're useful and they keep everything clean. Now that I have the hair section, I'm going to take my first piece and I'm going to grab my Fremar paddle and I'm going to apply a little bit of lightener to it, and that's going to just make sure that the hair sticks to the paddle, and then I'm going to fully saturate. What I'm going to make sure that I do for this entire process is that every single section is around the same width thickness as each other, because we want equal lift everywhere. That's the really challenging part about this service, is that you are going to see when pieces aren't lifted as much as other pieces, because the toner does not tell lies. So what I'm going to do is take very thin sections and take my time applying the bleach to every single section. And this is done in real time right here, so you can see how much time I'm taking with each section. So let's talk about why I'm using a paddle instead of just applying directly to the foil. Number one, I find it's a lot easier to saturate using a paddle because you have a firm surface and you're not working with the top of your hand and a foil as your surface, where things can bend, they can crinkle, you're going to get little missed spots, and it's not quite as firm to work with. This is a firm surface that you can spread the hair around, you can fully saturate it, and you can kind of flip the ends up on top onto the mids if you want. You can make it really long if you want. there's just so much extra control that you get with a paddle, and that's what I need, because I need full saturation top and bottom. I'm able to lift the hair off of the paddle and scoop the brush underneath like you just saw right there, and that makes sure that the underside is also coated, because if you miss a little piece in the underside, guess what? It's going to show. It's going to be this big giant orange eyesore that you see at the end of the service. So doing this method here where you coat on top, pull the paddle away, and then put the brush underneath, coats the underside as well, and make sure that you don't have to go really around checking too much. The second reason why I love to use a paddle instead of applying directly to a foil is because it actually prevents swelling from the foils. And the way that it does that is because I'm not putting a whole bunch of extra bleach on the foils. The only bleach that's going in there is the bleach that's on the hair surrounding it, and it's going to make sure that there's enough extra room in the foil for that bleach to expand and not really come out too much. So that's why I love that, because you're not putting a whole bunch of bleach on the sides of the foil, then that's also getting hot, expanding the foil, causing things to drip out and causing a mess everywhere. This is a great, actually very neat way of doing it, and I know it looks like you're using a lot more product, but it's guaranteed that that product is being used and it's not just going along the sides of the foil and essentially being wasted and causing a lot of extra heat that you don't need in that area. In a little bit, I'm going to show you another view on how I'm actually swiping my brush around to get major saturation here. But what I'm going to talk about right now is why I'm flipping the ends up into the middle of the hair just before I put the foils on, and why I'm folding the foils in half rather than letting them be the full length of the hair. Also, little things like this are really important to note because I've learned things from my previous bleach outs, and this is the solution to those problems which I've caused for myself. So even little details like this matter. So what I could have done is let the hair be the full length and have really long foils and let it sit down on her back. But what's happened in the past because of that is, because the head is warm and the back is warm and there's this space where the neck is, that space right in the middle of her foil tends to go really orange. And that's happened with a client of mine who's had fully virgin hair. And then I had to relighten her hair, and it was such a big to-do. It was so frustrating. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm folding up those ends into the middle section, and then I am using my foils to fold them up in half. Now I'm not creating a crease line in the hair. I am very gently folding. I'm not zipping the bottom of the foil. I'm making sure the sides are sealed in, but this is ensuring that all that heat that's insulated in one small area gets even heat distribution around the whole length of the hair, rather than having it being hot at the top, cooler in the middle because that space in the neck, and then really hot where the back is on the very ends of the hair, which tend to be very easy to damage because they're old, they're more porous, they've had different color on them, for all of those reasons. Now what you will see as well today is that we do have a warm band in the middle of her hair, but that band is right where her newest color is. So her newest color is a few inches down, and she may have changed up her formula a little bit. She may have tried something new when she got a new box dye. I'm not really sure, but it is a little warmer than it is at the ends. And you're going to see that in the sink when we're toning her hair out. It is something that we fix and we play around with toners a little bit to blend it into her hair. But that is something that you're going to run into too when you have a lot of root and then the box dye somewhere in the middle of the hair, because that's the freshest level of box dye that we have. It's probably overlapped a little bit, and it will cause some banding that you're gonna have to formulate with. So let's get back to where I'm foiling first. I'm foiling up the back from the nape of the neck all the way up to the crown of the head. My pieces are going to be getting skinnier as I get up to that little peak, and that's fine. So this is me finishing that last section, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to work on the other side of the back and start from the bottom, work right up to meet that piece. And this is just going to make sure that if we have to rinse out the back or something, then it's easier rather than, rinsing out the sides first. We definitely don't want to do the sides and the front first. We want to do the area that is easiest to rinse out first. As I'm doing this, I am leveling up my bleach with each bowl. Now I am working through each bowl very quickly because I'm working with quite a lot of hair. So all my bowls are maximum spending probably 10 minutes at my station before I have to go refill it. So what I've started with is, as I told you earlier, I'm using Blonde Me, I'm using Cool Additive, and I've got 7 volume and 20 volume. And as I go, each single section is going to be leveled up with Developer, which means I'm going to add in a little more 20 every single time until I get around to the front, which is going to be basically just 20 on my last section. Now let's talk about some do's and don'ts, because you guys are about to see my wish. For my regular viewers, you know I have 2 stars and a wish for every episode. This is going to be my wish right here. This little section that I take right here, I was not very careful about, and I let it flip after I combed it and put it onto my paddle, and right there, oh my God, ew. Because you know what happens with this is that's going to be orange. I'm going to have to fix that later. So you never want pieces to flip like that. You never want to create these thick, chunky sections of hair which don't get proper saturation, because then they're not going to lift as much as everything else. So there's going to be this little like low light in the hair that I have to fix later. You'll see it. I'll definitely point it out. It's awful. Look at how chunky that is. That is not well flattened out. Not everything is going to get the same distribution of heat and saturation. So that's my wish today, is that I just took my time and recombed that little piece out after it accidentally flipped over, like this piece. This is a beautiful piece. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Chef's kiss. Mwah. With it being properly laid out like this, I can so easily saturate everything, and I can get the underneath, I can get on top, I can swish side to side with my brush and get the sides of each hair. This is the way you gotta do it. You gotta flatten out each piece, flip that little bottom up towards the top, and close it into the ends with no zipping at the bottom. Also, one thing I want to note is that every single piece of mine is getting close to the scalp without being on the scalp. I want to be about 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch away from the scalp, so keep that in mind for every single piece that you apply. You want to leave room for when you put the roots on later. I'm about to show you guys a real pro trick here. This is something that I've taught myself over the years. So this is my patterning. I've started from the bottom, I've worked my way all the way up to the crown here, and then I flipped that little piece over accidentally, and then I've started from the bottom the other side, worked my way all up to the top. This is pretty basic, it's pretty normal. These pieces have lots of time to process. Then when I started my side, I worked from the ear, worked my way all the way up to her parting, and then kept going before I started my next side. I worked my way 1 to 2 inches over to the other side of the parting so that that area isn't exposed to the cold air. Then I started from the bottom of the other ear, worked my way up to meet it, and that's where I put my last foil. Now I'm going to flip those pieces that I worked on earlier that have a lot more time to process. They're going to flip over, insulate that last piece, and now I don't have to worry about the parting not processing as fast, because what's on the top is going to be cool and not have as much time to process if you do it last. What ends up happening here is everything that stays cool ends up being orange, and this can be a big problem if you need to rinse out everything else and the top hasn't finished processing, because even though that looks like it's done, it's not. It is so far from being done because it has Cool Additive in there, and when I scrape it away, you can see there's still so much pigment left in the hair. So, you know, blonde lighteners will fool you when they have a blue tone to them, and you have to make sure that it looks more than done and then give it extra time, because that blue is going to wash away and reveal so much yellow and orange underneath. If it still looks like it has any pigment at all, it's got lots of pigment to it. So let's take a look at one of the other pieces that I've done, and you'll see a color difference between the piece that I did at the front and the piece at the back that's had a lot more time. Look at how much more colorless that looks. That looks like it's doing better. It's still not ready though, because I can see a little tiny bit of yellow in there. And because the Cool Additive is adding extra blue tones, again, it is tricking me a little bit. So I do need to just trust the process, wait a little longer. I'm still gonna check the first side that I did, a well-insulated piece, and you're gonna see that this piece is ready to go. Look at her. She is beautiful. She is entirely colorless. So she's ready to go. So that is my cue to start on the roots in just a few minutes. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to apply a towel just to the top front of her head to make sure that those top pieces stay insulated and warm, and this ensures that we don't get any orange pieces up at the top, even though they have had that extra time to insulate while I've been working on it. Now we're going to do the roots at the back. So my last section that I had started on, I had done just 20 volume Blonde Me and Cool Additive. That's what I'm doing now for the roots. This is going to be my standard root formula for her in the future when she comes in for her touch-ups. And we're going to keep the big three in mind. The big three is my 3 rules to a perfect bleach out: saturation, thin sections, and fresh bowls. We are still using those 3 rules to make sure that the roots lift just as beautifully as the foils do. So I've skipped ahead a little bit so you can kind of see better about how I'm applying these roots. What I'm doing is I'm using the foil as a handle, and I'm slipping it down and I'm applying the roots on with fresh new developer and lightener, and I am sweeping onto the previously lightened areas. Please keep in mind this is not something I'd be doing if I were doing her regular bleach touch-up. This is only something that's happening right now because that old bleach is acting as a barrier so that I don't end up getting full power onto those areas. But I still do need a little bit of extra power because where the foil opens up, it is exposed to a little bit of air, and that lightener doesn't end up processing as well as it does throughout the rest of the foil. So there is a little bit of warmth at the kind of meeting point between the root and the foil. So I am covering over that. And the best thing about this whole application is it only takes about 5 to 10 minutes because it's basically pre-sectioned. I can grab each little piece, pin it up, and the foils act as my handle. It stays really clean and it's getting really good saturation because everything is pre-sectioned. I wait until my last section is almost done processing because the root application is so much faster than you think, and the roots process faster than the foils do because it's got the warmth of the scalp to make it process even faster. So that's why we do that. Then what I do after each section is I pull down every foil, make sure everything's double, triple saturated, and then I go along the perimeters of each of those sections with extra bleach and make sure, again, everything is fully saturated, because if it's not saturated, it's going to be orange, and we don't want any orange here. And because this is the section that I started on with applying the foils, this is going to be the section that I start on with applying the roots. And I'm going to work my way around the head in the same way that I did so that everything is, congruent with each other and makes sense and lightens all the same way. And if one section needs to be left in, then it's still that last section that I worked on for both the roots and the foils. After that section is done, I'm going to be taking a foil and ripping it so it's a little skinnier, a little easier to fit into these corners, and I'm going to be placing it along these parting lines to make sure that they stay insulated and warm, because those areas exposed to air will process faster but also dry out faster and end up with orange roots. Now I'm going to be doing the top of the head, and the reason why I start with the top section of the foils first is because it's a lot cleaner, it's a lot easier, and as I pull them all back down, I can just double check them. So that's a great way to do it rather than start from the bottom, have all these foils slipping all over the place, and then maybe miss a spot. This is a great way so I can double check everything, because this whole head is all about double, triple, quadruple checking everything to make sure that it's all lifted the same way. Now we're starting part 3. This is lift control. This is the really fun part about the service and exactly why I have a frame our back bib on my client. So you're gonna grab a garbage can, any kind of trash receptacle, and you're going to start pulling out the foils from the first few pieces that you've done, and you're going to check every single piece. This is a continuity check. This is going to make sure that any little pieces that haven't processed all the way are getting double checked, like this piece that we talked about earlier, the little flipped over piece. The goal as to what we're doing here is to make sure that every single piece is uniformly lightened all the way down, and that there doesn't look like there's any patches or low lights of orange or yellow. And that piece, you can already tell just by looking at it that it's orange when you see it right next to these beautiful light pieces. Because honestly, come on. Girl, look how orange you look. That was so stupid. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to take that out. Anyways, this is what a beautifully lifted piece looks like. I'm going to show you right now. Look at her. She's a queen. Love her. That's what we want every single piece to look like. She is beautiful. She is flawless. She is the moment. She is everything. Versus this piece has to be covered again with extra 20 volume and lightener and cool additive, but that's okay because we are still going to let this keep lifting because it's not all the way done yet. Surprise, surprise, it's still not done. So I am making sure that any type of warmth that I see, even if I think I see some warmth, I'm going to add extra lightener onto it. All right, and here's a little tip here. Take a little tiny piece of cotton and clean off the ear, cover it around the edges of the ear after you've gotten everything fully saturated. So that just protects it, you know, because ears can be a little bit sensitive and they can get hot. And we want to make sure that our client is comfortable at every part of this process. Now here is where I show you how I use my Framar back bib as a insulation device. I actually pulled it up from the back, put it around her hairline and around the whole head, and I've clipped it into place so it insulates while the rest of the hair processes. And I've also got a foil on top of her parting to make sure that that still processes, because it's always the parting that has a little bit of warmth. You can still see warmth through the bag here, so that means she's not quite done. We want to make sure she looks more than done, because that's what a white blonde is. Now here is what done looks like. I'm gonna kind of scrape away a little bit of lightener at every single section, you know, the top, the back, everywhere, and it's all going to look the same. It's all going to look like this beautiful, almost bluey color. That's what we want. If we have cool additive, we want to look almost bluey. We know that this area, just from seeing it right now, is going to have a bit of extra warmth. We're gonna have to retone that because that's where the old box dye is. But we could tell that the virgin hair has lifted beautifully and evenly. It connects the roots towards that midsection. And you know, this is all that it's going to lift in the mids here. It is time to wash it out, because this is not going to lift any lighter. Now it's time for the wash. It's everybody's favorite part of the service. I am using the Framar bib and just kind of ripping the little edge of that so that it comes off cleanly. This is a really easy way to get your client into the chair. And now I'm going to be doing a cold wash on my client. This is actually very important to be always using cooler water when you're rinsing off a fresh color or lightener, because it seals the cuticle and it makes the hair smoother, and it also soothes the scalp. Using hot water on a fresh bleach out is just so uncomfortable. It's actually kind of painful. So always use cool water. It's very soothing. It can be a little shocking at first, but it's very, very refreshing and helps to make sure that you don't get any kind of like swelling. Some people tend to swell when they get a lot of blood rushing to their scalp because there is chemicals sitting on it for like a couple of hours and it's hot. So make sure you always use cool water to rinse, and I always do a double shampoo. I'm going to be using the K18 shampoo today. I'm going to shampoo once to make sure that I get all the shampoo and all the bleach out of the hair, and then I'm going to be doing a second one just to make sure that I get all those little areas that are kind of difficult to reach and that the hair is fully clean and fully bleach free before I do my toning, because if there's any bleach residue left over, your toner won't process in that area. It's wild. You're gonna have like a little orange area on the scalp if you don't fully rinse that away. So 2 shampoos is the way to go. After she's been shampooed, I'm going to use a few pumps of my K18 mask, and I'm going to put that on, and that's totally safe to put on before you tone because it's going to be giving her an extra treatment today. It's also going to be going in after I'm done my color service and we're about to blow dry and style her. So she's getting so many amazing treatments. Her hair feels great. Those little ends are a little bit on the dry damage side, but that's because they've been bleached previously before today, and we're still going to be trimming them off. As I'm brushing, you can see the lift on her virgin roots and the lift on her old box dye. It's a crazy difference. Now comes everybody's favorite part, is our toner formula. Now we're going to be doing 2 toner formulas today, and this formula is going to be applied in a kind of different way. I'm using Pulp Riot's Icy Toner, and I'm going to be using a 6 volume developer. I think it's mixed 2 to 1. It's quite liquidy, and I am going to be putting on another back bib because this is quite a messy service right here. But her ends were a lot more orange than the roots are. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that using this express toner means that it is a progressive toner, which means that the longer it's on, the stronger the result is. So this is actually a great toner for using on areas that are easy to section out, that have a lot more warmth in them than other areas, which you can apply second, because those first areas will be on longer, they'll get more strength to them, and the second areas just need a little bit of a tweaking for their colors. That's why I did choose this color today. Even as it's processing right now, because it is a 5-minute toner, you can see how quickly it's adjusting the color of those ends, which is something that's really, really good. I'm feathering it up on those like slightly warmer tone areas between the virgin hair and the box dye, kind of that transitional area. I don't want it to just create like this purple line. So I am feathering with my hands as I go, but this is why I do it this way. Now, this actual middle band area still ended up having a little extra warmth, so I did do a second toner in the sink on just this area, and what I mixed together was Schwarzkopf Vibrance, and I mixed together just clear and the kicker, which is a 0-11. It is just ash pigment, it's just a kicker. But that's sometimes something that has to be done in the sink, is kind of a second toner where you spot correct some areas. And that's why I like the Schwarzkopf 0-11 kicker. And I added it to a ton of clear because it is so powerful. But it did exactly the job that I wanted, and it managed to match everything over there. And the reason why I did choose the 0-11 is because it's like a cendre blue tone, periwinkle tone ash. And the colors that I was fighting were more of a goldy yellow. They weren't a inside of the banana yellow. So it did neutralize that out as much as possible, and she has a much more even and consistent color after this. So now's everybody's favorite part. It's 2 stars and a wish. 2 stars that I did well today. I think that my end result is beautiful, and I think it's better than I could have expected or what my client could have expected. My second is that I am really happy with my application and my formulation today. I think it was spot on for what needed to be done. My wish was that one piece that did end up flipping, and I didn't bother to change it or recomb it out or fix it. I thought I could just work with it, and it didn't, so it did take a little extra work to play with that piece. But it turned out beautiful in the end, because this is our end result. Oh my god, I am so happy with this. I am so proud of it. I really, really love her end result, and it is so soft. The K18 in her hair made it feel so good. Didn't feel like we had bleach on there for 3.5 hours, but it felt amazing. Some of you are going to want to know how much she paid for her service. And what I do is I do charge an hourly rate for my color corrections. It's right now, it's $120 per hour. We did about 5 hours of color correcting, and we did a cut and we did a treatment. So all of those kind of came in together, and she did have a decent bill, but honestly, for how quickly I worked and how efficient I worked, this could have taken a lot longer. But because of this method, my service got done within, record time, essentially. Like, her full color work, her whole appointment was 5 hours with a little bit of extra time for some filming, so 5.5 hours, but I didn't charge her for that, obviously. I only charged her for the time that I actually did color work. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video today. I hope you learned a lot. This is my standard method to get anybody to as platinum as possible. It is a 3-step process. It takes a long time, but the more you do it, the faster you get, and the more you can charge per hour, because you are efficient and you are faster, and you're letting your client have more of their day to themselves with their brand new hair when you are a faster stylist who has a great method of getting them to the color that they want in one session. So please remember to like and subscribe, turn on the notification bells. Also, we are on Instagram and on TikTok at Bobby Hair Studio. If you're not already following us there, follow us there to see more stuff that we do. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you really enjoyed this. And thank you so much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. If you have, make sure to comment below Bobby's crew so I know who the real OGs are, and have fun browsing through my other videos. I hope you guys learned a lot today. Have a great weekend, guys.